What's up, everybody? It's Chris Distefano, a.k.a. In the Closet Chrissy Till My Dad Dies. Today's top 5 is people in American history you didn't know were gay. Yes! Number 5. President James Buchanan, the 15th president of the United States, who constantly gets put on the worst presidents in America list, but I want to put him on the best presidents in America's list because guess what? He was gay. So President James Buchanan, allegedly at the time, was very openly gay and nobody really talks about it. It's kind of lost in history. He lived with a man named William Rufus King, who was a senator from Alabama, who was also gay, who Andrew Jackson used to call Miss Nancy, which was a euphemism for gay men at the time. And some members of President James Buchanan's staff and presidential cabinet would call William Rufus King Mrs. B for Mrs. Buchanan. I always knew President James Buchanan as the 15th president of the United States, and he was famous to me for really kind of causing the Civil War. President Lincoln just inherited James Buchanan mess, much like President Trump just inherited President Obama's mess. It's just this very similar thing. I'm just kidding. It's a very similar thing because people are like, no, you can't say that. It's Chrissy YouTubes. I'll do what I want. But because what happened is a lot of people think President James Buchanan was known as a doughboy, which, not that he's selling crack on the streets. A doughboy back in the 1800s meant that you were a Northerner who supported slavery. You pretty much supported the Confederacy and the South. James Buchanan put a lot of eggs in that basket. He thought the South was going to rise to power, and he thought, I better play nice to the Southern states because those are the ones who are going to get me reelected and push forward my political career. But the man was wrong. The South was becoming a minority quicker and quicker because slaves are no bueno. So Buchanan was known as a doughboy, and a lot of people think now, looking back at history, that the reason why he probably was a doughboy and was very pro-slavery, pro-Confederacy, even though he was born and raised in Pennsylvania, Lancaster, shout out the Amish country, because he was in love with William Rufus King, the senator from Alabama, who was also an ambassador to France, which if you're going to be a gay guy, that's the country you want to be ambassador to, is France, baby. You want to get that croissant in your mouth right now? Yes. So Buchanan and William Rufus King were kind of the first couple. So there's been a lot of speculation. There was a lot of speculation a couple of months ago about Pete Buttigieg being potentially the first gay president. Well, I got news for you, Petey, my sweetie. You would be the second gay president because James Buchanan was gay, gay, gay. Also, it may be a shock to some people, but in the 19th century, openly saying you were gay didn't necessarily exclude you from the presidency or any major office. They kind of viewed it as, that's a matter for the privacy of your own home. Why would I even care what your sexual preference is if you're going to run for office? It's stupid. And they knew it 150 years ago, but then we forgot it, but now we're getting to know it again. There you go. Trump's gay. My number 4 gay person you didn't know was gay, Richard Nixon, Tricky Dick. If you're going to be gay, is there a better name to have than Dick? I mean, what? Literally, it's the thing you want is what your name is. Dick Nixon, Tricky Dick, love him. He was alleged to be gay and have a pretty gay relationship with a man named Bebe Rebozo, no relation to Bebe Rexha. Charles Gregory Bebe Rebozo was Nixon's friend, and he was a congressman and a Cuban-born businessman who Nixon would go on trips to the islands with this guy. Allegedly, when he would go out with his wife or they would go out with their wives, they would just hold each other. Nixon and Rebozo would hold each other like a senior prom date. They were just holding and canoodling, and never any type of gay stuff happened out in the public. Nobody ever saw them kissing or anything like that, but allegedly they would hold each other and do pretty gay shit. And listen, it's fine, but it's just a lot of people kind of gloss over it about how gay Richard Nixon probably was. Because, listen, I get it, okay? Rebozo was a sexy Cuban-born businessman. If you're going to be gay, you're going to want to go with a Latino. I mean, Latino people, gay, straight, bi, they're just the best at sex. So I kind of get it. If I was president of the United States and I just wanted to have fun for a night, I would probably pick a man named Bebe Rebozo who was born and raised in Cuba because I know he's going to suck my dick like a mariachi band, even though that doesn't make sense. Yeah, and President Nixon's secretary was even quoted as saying, I never saw him touch his wife, Pat. It was a very, very cold relationship. So there you go. A lot of times, gay men aren't nice to their wives, and they're cold to their wives because they really are just cruising for dick, which is fine. I mean, his name's Richard Nixon. You're going to cruise for dick, and if you want to look for a little cock and balls, you do that, okay? And listen, if my girlfriend's watching this, the reason why I'm cold to you is not because I'm gay. It's because I'm scared of you. Look, there's also It could have all just been speculation, of course, because it's really just two guys having a very close friendship. So that's the thing, especially when you're in the public eye. If you're going to be just really, really close friends with the opposite sex, the news is going to say you're gay for the headlines. But Dan Rather was quoted as saying Rebozo transmitted the sense of sensuality. He was magnetic and had beautiful eyes. So Dan Rather's gay too. So I'm throwing Dan Rather onto the list. Even General Alexander Haig, who was President Nixon's last chief of staff, would make fun of Rebozo's limp wrists. And he would say, like, he talks like this and he goes like this. And he said that him and Nixon had a homosexual relationship. But look, I don't know, to each their own. I mean, it was at a time in American history where obviously they had to be really private about that. And that's sad because you wish they could have just come out of the closet right there on national TV and started sucking each other's dicks in the State of the Union address. All right, my number 3 is Alexander Hamilton, America's first Treasury Secretary. The guy was at least bisexual. Here's why. He used to write love letters to this guy named John Lawrence all the time. And he would say things like, "Till you bade us adieu, I hardly knew the value you had taught my heart to set upon you." That's gay. I know that historians will say, well, that's the kind of relationship men had back in the day because you really weren't allowed to kind of mingle with the opposite sex. Women had to stay with women and men had to stay with men. It was kind of like a Hasidic Jewish wedding, but for the whole century. So that's kind of what life was like. So I understand what historians would say, no, you don't, those letters aren't as gay as they sound. But if somebody wrote a musical about your life, for me, that checks the box. Alexander Hamilton, you're gay. Listen, Alexander Hamilton was at the very least bisexual because I know he wrote a lot of gay love letters to John Lawrence, but he also loved his wife, Elizabeth Schuyler. He even had to apologize publicly once because he cheated on her with this woman named Mary Reynolds. So I just think Alexander Hamilton loves sex. I mean, the guy just liked to plug some holes. He wanted to just bang out, which I get it, dude. He was the youngest Secretary of Treasury. I mean, it's Alexander frickin' Hamilton. He's out there getting puss and a little bum holes. It happens. It's fine. And listen, John Lawrence and Alexander Hamilton remained pretty much in love until John Lawrence died in battle in 1782. And then that's when maybe Alexander Hamilton decided to step back into the closet and marry his wife, Elizabeth Schuyler, and then he wound up having an affair on her with Mary Reynolds, but maybe he thought Mary Reynolds had a mustache and was a guy. I don't know. If you don't think I know you're gay, you got another thing coming. I will sneak into your coffin right now and check that cock for a cock ring. My number 2 on the list, 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, a.k.a. good old Gay Abe. He was having an alleged gay relationship with a man named Joshua Speed, who he wrote letters to back when he was in Iowa, and they had some kind of an affair. And even in 1862, a woman named Virginia Woodbury wrote something in her diary that said, President Lincoln sleeps with a bucktail soldier who was kind of like a security guard. He would sleep with this guy in his bed. Not saying they did any gay stuff, but you sleep with another guy in your bed, unless you're going head to toe, which we don't know if we don't have any proof if he did or did not go head to toe. But if he wasn't going head to toe, most likely he was gay. And I know a lot of historians rebuff this claim. That's all historians want to do, is come and make claims that the people that we're saying are gay weren't gay. It's like, historians, are you homophobes? Does the H in historian stand for homophobia? Why can't you just allow President Lincoln to be gay? We got the letters, dude, but they're saying, oh, there was not Lincolnism. This is not in Lincolnian style that the letters he wrote. It's like, what are you talking about? Maybe he's writing the Emancipation Proclamation in one type of way, and then he's writing his gay love letters in another type of way. So what? Let the guy live. And also, he got shot and killed in the theater. What straight guy would get killed in the theater? Number 1, American Revolutionary War hero, Baron Friedrich von Stueben, who, if I was in a video game where I could make a gay player, that's the name I'd pick. I mean, if you want to make a gay, Baron Friedrich von Stueben is a nice, classic, top-shelf gay name. And this guy, he was actually from the Prussian army. Prussia, which, used to be Germany. The Prussian army. So he was a strict military leader, this guy, but he was kind of known to be gay. I mean, he was almost like he was openly gay. So Baron Friedrich von Stueben was actually thrown out of the Prussian army in the 1700s, and a lot of people don't know why. I'm like, yeah, I have an idea why. He was probably finagling some schnitzels over there, and you weren't allowed to do that in the Prussian army at that time. Once he got thrown out of the Prussian army, he kept applying for different jobs throughout Prussia, and they kept saying that he can't do it because somebody kept writing a letter saying he had familiarities with young boys. So that's a funny way to put that you're gay, is I have a familiarity with some young men over here. Here's the thing with necessity and war and all that stuff, is Benjamin Franklin and George Washington were getting crushed by the British. Their army was in pieces. They needed somebody to whip the soldiers into shape. And what better person to do that than a huge, flamingly gay German man? And they picked Baron von Friedrich de Stueben, whatever his name was, because they knew that he was the man to get the job done. So Benjamin Franklin and George Washington invited him over, paid him to whip the colonial soldiers into shape, both knowing Franklin and Washington, by the way, knew that he was gay. They just didn't care, which is dope. They were just like, we need someone to whip the army into shape. Steuben's the guy. And he did do a great job. His nickname by the soldiers was the Drill Master. So there you go. The Drill Master. I mean, this guy was just a 10 out of 10 out of 10. So when von Steuben arrived to camp from Prussia to America, he was appalled by the conditions the colonial army was in. He said the guns were no good, the rations were no good, but the number one thing, the uniforms were gross. As much as a hard ass as Stueben was, he was also like kind of a party animal. Because that's the thing, when you're a gay guy, you just like to have fun. Gays have fun at a level that is unprecedented. Stueben was no different. One of Steuben's aides, Pierre-Étienne Duponcheux, that was his name. It's always fun to say a French name. I think that's how you say it. Pierre-Étienne Duponcheux. He recalls a wild party that happened at Valley Forge. Now, if you know about Valley Forge, that in the wintertime at Valley Forge in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, in the American Revolutionary War, like half the army died from frostbite and died from the elements because they didn't have blankets or uniforms. They had holes in their clothes. And von Steuben was throwing a wild gay party in one of the barracks that the generals and inspectors were allowed to go into. They said that his aide-de-camps, von Steuben's aide-de-camps, said during Valley Forge, while all these guys were outside freezing to death and dying, he was having parties and inviting certain soldiers in, and they were only allowed to come in their breeches. So they either had to come in with no pants on or only the holes in their pants. And he said the aide said some of the guys were just butt naked in there. I'm like, yeah, that's what happens, guy. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to freeze to death in Valley Forge? Or do you want to come in here and get Uncle Steuben's bayonet up your ass? But look, dude, it wasn't all wild sex-charged parties for von Steuben. He actually formed bonds with these men. Two guys, Benjamin Walker and William North, he actually legally adopted, which was very, very common to do for gay men at that time because gay marriage was illegal. It's the 1770s. You can't do that. Can't marry a dude. So they would adopt him. They would adopt him as their children. And that's what von Steuben did. He adopted these two lovers as his children, and they were his kids, but he was also in love with them and had relationships with them. He's like the original Woody Allen, but even gayer. Listen, so in a gay nutshell, von Steuben proved himself to be vitally important for the American cause for freedom. I mean, some of his drill sergeant techniques are still used to this day. And the next time you salute that flag or you look up at that American eagle, just know a gay guy bought you your freedom. So go out there, don't worry about it at all, suck a cock, have some fun. Von Steuben, you're an American hero and a true patriot. Without your fighting techniques that you instilled in the colonial army, would have never beat the British. So, sir, I salute you as America's #1 drill master in more ways than one. All right, so that's my top 5. And look, this isn't anything new. I mean, look, being gay goes all the way back in time. I mean, there was even one we didn't cover because it's not American called the Sacred Band of Thebes, which was a band of gay Greek soldiers that would have sex with each other the night before a battle and fall in love with each other so they protect each other on the battlefield. And you know what their war cry was? Yas! Being gay is yay. Every Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we got a new Chris D comedy video coming out on YouTube, Chrissy YouTubes. Check me out. I'll be doing stand-up in a city coming near you. Go to chrisdcomedy.com for tickets. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Chris D Comedy. Have a good gay day.